You've probably heard someone say it, right? Hey, I have my rights. It's a free country. We hear that all the time. But what does it actually mean? Where do we draw the line between what people in charge, like the government or even your school, can do and what you, as an individual, can do? Well, sometimes that line can get a little blurry. So, to really get what I'm talking about, let's jump into a true story. This actually happened at a high school right here in Canada. Picture this. You're just sitting in class when an announcement comes over the intercom. Everyone has to stay put because the police are in the building with sniffer dogs to do a search. And then you hear a dog start barking right outside a student's locker. So, boom, the police open the locker, and sure enough, they find drugs. The student gets arrested and charged. You'd think that's case closed, right? I mean, seems pretty simple. But nope, this is where it gets interesting. The student fought the charges in court, and his whole argument wasn't about the drugs. It was all about his rights, specifically his rights under a super important document called the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. So let me ask you, what do you think? Was that search fair? Should the police be able to just search any student's locker, even if they didn't suspect that specific person to begin with? It's a tough one, for sure. And that's the exact question the court had to figure out. All right, so what was the verdict? Well, after 2 whole years, the judge ruled that the search was unreasonable. And because of that, the evidence was thrown out, the charges were dropped, and the student walked free. Why? All because the Charter of Rights and Freedoms protected him. This just goes to show you the Charter isn't just some dusty old piece of paper. It has real power in our everyday lives. Okay, so this charter sounds pretty important, right? But what is it exactly, and what gives it so much power? To get that, we need to zoom out a little and talk about Canada's ultimate rulebook, the Constitution. The easiest way to think about the Constitution is like the main rulebook for the country. It lays out all the rules for how the government is allowed to work. But here's the most crucial part. It's the highest law in Canada. Nothing is above it. That means any other law that gets made has to follow the rules of the Constitution. If it doesn't, it's out. And this is why the Charter is such a big deal. The Charter of Rights and Freedoms, which became official back in 1982, isn't just some regular law. It's actually part of the Constitution. It's baked right in. So when we talk about our rights, we're talking about something protected by the most powerful law in the entire country. A government can't just wake up one day and decide to change it. Check out what Jean Chrétien, who was the Minister of Justice back then, said about it. He basically said, look, Canada is a huge country with all sorts of different people. The only way to guarantee that everyone gets treated fairly and has the same protections is to lock those basic rights into the Constitution where they can't be easily messed with. All right, so we know the Charter is super important, but what rights are we actually talking about here? Well, they're broken down into 5 main groups. Let's dive in. First on the list are your fundamental freedoms. Honestly, these are probably the ones you think of when someone says freedom. It's your right to believe what you want, to say what you think, to get together in peaceful groups, and to hang out with whoever you choose. They're the core freedoms for living your life. And this right here? This is a perfect everyday example. Anytime you join a club at school, whether it's a drama club like this one, the basketball team, or a gaming club, you are literally using your fundamental freedoms of expression and association. The Charter protects your right to do that. Okay, number 2, democratic rights. This is huge. This is basically your right to have a say in how the country is run. It guarantees that every Canadian citizen gets to vote in elections, and it makes sure that the people in charge are chosen by us. Next up, mobility rights. This one's pretty simple. It means you have the right to live and find a job anywhere you want in Canada. So if you grow up on one side of the country and want to move to the other, you can. The Charter says so. Number 4 is legal rights. And this should sound familiar because it takes us right back to that story at the beginning. This includes things like the right to a fair trial and, you guessed it, the right to be protected from unreasonable search or seizure. That's the exact right the student in our story used to win his case. And last but definitely not least, we have equality rights. This one is at the heart of what it means to be Canadian. It says that every single person has the right to be treated equally without being discriminated against because of your race, gender, religion, age, or abilities. It's all about fairness. Now, all of these rights probably seem like common sense to you, right? Of course we should have them. But to really get why it's so incredibly important that they're written down and protected, we need to take a quick look back in time to see what things were like in Canada before we had the Charter. Just look at this timeline. The fight for rights in Canada wasn't a short one. For over 100 years before the Charter was signed in 1982, there were laws and events that, today, we would look at and say, whoa, that's a total violation of someone's rights. For example, let's talk about the Indian Act. Back in 1876, this law actually banned First Nations from practicing their own traditional ceremonies and made it illegal for them to organize for political change. Think about that. Now, with the Charter, those kinds of discriminatory laws are illegal because fundamental and equality rights protect everyone's culture. Or how about this one? Back in 1876, women in Canada were not allowed to vote at all. They had to fight for decades to win that right. But today, the Charter guarantees the right to vote for all citizens. It's not something a government can just decide to take away anymore. It's protected. Okay, so it's pretty clear the Charter gives us some amazing protections. But, and this is a really important but, it's not just about what you get, it's also about what you give. You see, with rights come responsibilities. You can't really have one without the other. Let's break it down. You have the democratic right to vote, right? Well, that comes with the responsibility to actually learn about the issues and participate. Or what about freedom of speech? You have the right to say what you think, but you also have a responsibility to respect that other people can say what they think, even if you totally disagree. It's all about balance. All right, that was a lot of information, I know. So let's boil it all down into a quick checklist of the most important things to remember. First thing, the Charter is part of the Constitution, Canada's highest law. That's what gives it its power. Second, it protects your rights in 5 big categories. Third, it's your tool. You can use it to challenge laws that you think are unfair. And fourth, don't forget, with rights come responsibilities. It's on all of us to vote, respect others, and be good citizens. Okay, to finish up, I'm going to leave you with 2 quick questions to see what's stuck. Number 1, can you give me one example of a fundamental freedom? And number 2, why is it such a big deal that the Charter is in the Constitution? Just think on those for a minute. It's the best way to make sure you've got it. Thanks for exploring the Charter with me today.